This video was recorded live before a canned studio audience. It's Friday Night Movie Reviews, and here they are, Chris and Keith.
Hello there, I'm Keith.
I'm Chris.
And this is Friday Night Movie Reviews. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are reviewing another movie. This is not one that we went and saw in the theater, at least I didn't. Chris here did when it came out. This is one that I actually watched on streaming, and you can watch it on streaming as well. You can catch it on Netflix if you want to catch this film. This is a movie, and this is going to go into our holiday theme. A movie called Thanksgiving. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Thanksgiving as far as like the movie goes, not the family and friends gathering, because I'm assuming that all of you here in America are pretty much in tune with Thanksgiving. But if you're unfamiliar with the movie theme, the movie Thanksgiving is basically a slasher film. Surprise, surprise.
And it's a whodunit slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say that this is a movie that's 15 years in the making, because this started out as a fake trailer in front of the double feature that Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino did, Planet Terror and Death Proof. So for 15 years, I had seen this fake trailer. I'm like, oh, that would make such a good movie, because here in America, Thanksgiving's a holiday that we enjoy. And I always said growing up, I want a really good Thanksgiving horror movie. And I know, and I'm aware that there's Thanksgiving, and there's one called Blood Rage from the 80s. I'm aware of those, but I wanted one with Thanksgiving in the title, just to call it Thanksgiving.
I mean, you have things like Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
You know, you
My
have
Bloody Valentine,
My Bloody Valentine,
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. You have Halloween.
You have Leprechaun.
For
St.
Patrick's Day, and then you've got, of course, Krampus and Bad Santa Claus and other movies
there have been
all
so
kinds
many
of
Christmas
slashers
horror
and Christmas horror movies, all kinds of things, but you haven't really had anything that was devoted specifically to, and with it in the title, as he said, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, where it wasn't meant to be as a joke, because Thanksgiving is more of like a comedy horror, and I know there will be fans of Thanksgiving out there who will disagree with me on that one, but it is more of a comedy horror, and it's very schlocky. It's very, B-rate, straight to DVD kind of type of movie. I wanted one that was more in line with like Friday the 13th. And right. I finally got one after 15 years. Now, granted, I will warn you, if you were a fan of that fake trailer, there are going to be differences in this movie. I want to at least spoil that in that regard. So you're not going to get that exact infamous trampoline scene. I'm sorry, that's not happening.
And thankfully, they didn't do the infamous trampoline scene, because to me that would have just been too campy.
Yeah, they didn't do that one. They didn't do a lot of like the beheadings that you saw in the fake trailer.
There were a couple,
but they weren't as outlandish.
Yeah, because, I guess so.
Because that fake trailer really went for like spectacle, and then, this took, with this movie, they took the schlockiness out of that fake trailer and made it into an actual palatable movie. And they set it in today's dime, and it feels like a slasher movie made for today's time, where they incorporate cell phones into it. It's not one of those situations like, oh, I don't got signal, and then you get stabbed by the killer.
Or where you're looking for a phone, like in the past, you're looking for a phone, and like we were talking about earlier, you pick up the phone, oh, there's no dial tone. They cut the line. We're all gonna die. Because, that anytime you see a phone in a slasher film, the line's already been cut.
Yeah, or they cut the power, all that
stuff. Or
they
cut the power, there's no power.
It's the classic, so they realized now with cell phones that they've found a way to get around that, so they can't use those old tropes anymore.
Right.
So now they're having to develop new ways, and this is more of like self-aware, like a Scream, and how most more modern day slashers are.
But it's not as It's not as breaking the fourth dimension
as
like
Scream is,
like
yeah.
Scream does. I mean, these people don't exactly realize that they are in a slasher movie.
Yeah.
They just know that they're being hunted down by a slasher, and which brings us to the basic premise of the movie. The basic premise of the movie is, it's Thanksgiving. It starts out, it's Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. And something really terrible happens at the local supercenter.
Yep.
All right. Now,
And it does mirror real life. And
it does mirror a real life
tragic event.
Supercenter and a real life tragic event that did happen at one of those super centers. So, this weird thing happens, and I just really can't. I really can't believe that all these people were flipping out and going nuts over waffle irons.
Oh, I know. Well, I can say from personal, it's a very believable thing, because I witnessed in a certain supercenter that had walls. These two women fight over a crock pot one year. So
oh, wow.
I can say for certainty. So
wow.
The movie's very believable. So the setup to why the killer is doing what he's doing is very believable.
Right.
So obviously he's getting revenge for what happens during this Black Friday event.
And if you have ever been out shopping on a Black Friday, you know the frustration and the craziness that can and does go on those days. Now we're probably going to get a lot of people commenting and saying, well, I go shopping all the time on Black Friday and I've never seen anything like that. Well, hey, maybe you just got lucky.
And in years since those tragic events happened, they have improved it. Where
they have improved.
They don't no longer just have 10 of those items anymore.
Right.
Usually they have like a whole pallet full of them.
And they don't just have.
And they give you tickets now too.
And they don't just have 2 security guards. like they did in the film.
Yeah. So it was very clever of them to take something like that happened. It's grounded in reality and put it into a movie, because it was good commentary on something that needed to be addressed in a movie, and finally somebody had the nerve to do it. And I thought that was a great angle for this slasher to take. And
so basically what he does, this slasher is involved in this particular incident on a Black Friday, and it just makes him flip out, and he goes nuts, and he begins killing certain people that were at this particular Black Friday event. Now, there was a lot of recording going on with cell phones. That's the reason why he mentioned cell phones earlier. And somebody had posted it on the internet, on social media. They got a hold of the footage that some people had recorded, and had posted it on social media, and that's what this killer was using as his
hit list. Basically.
His hit list. He was going through and he was keying in on certain people that had shown up and were featured mostly in that particular video. So, it's a whodunit. Like he mentioned earlier, it's a whodunit. So you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out all throughout the movie who this killer is, because this killer is wearing a mask of the local hero of this particular town called Plymouth.
Plymouth, yep. John Carver.
John Carver, who was the founder of this particular town, and the killer is wearing a mask of his, and you can't see his hair, you can't see his body. He wears gloves. He wears a big work suit.
He's basically dressed as a pilgrim.
Yeah, he's kind of dressed like a pilgrim, and so you really never get a real clue as to who it is until it starts getting towards the end, of course.
And they have a lot of the classic tropes that a horror movie has. You have the red herrings where you suddenly think it's somebody and maybe it's somebody differently. Right. They always like to cast doubt in your mind. And I will say they do a really great job at that.
They did.
The movie does sprinkle in hints here or there to help you figure out who it is. You know,
Right.
some people obviously will figure it out before others. So, you know, if you're one of those people that figures it out quickly and you're watching it with a group of people, don't ruin it.
Don't
for
ruin
'em.
it for
Please
them.
Don't ruin
it for them because it may
know.
come as a surprise to somebody there at the end. I'm one of those kind of people that I can kind of figure things out like that really early in the movie, and I think probably sometime around maybe about 20 minutes into the movie, I had already figured out who it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly hard to figure out. Who
No,
it
it's
is.
not. It's not like it's not anything like Sixth Sense that's all of a sudden gonna, that's all of a sudden gonna blindside you. You're gonna be like, whoa.
Or like Friday the 13th with who the killer is. It just
Right.
bam, just
right.
hit you at the very end of the movie. You know.
Right. It's not going to be anything like that. But so there is a lot of violence in the movie.
Absolutely.
A lot of violence. There's a lot of really cringe, violent moments in the movie where you're watching something happening and you're just like So or you might want to turn your eyes or whatever. There's a lot of language in this movie. So do not by any means sit down with the kids and think, oh, we're going to watch a good Thanksgiving movie. No, not with this one. Absolutely not. Terribly violent, terrible language in it. Not quite on the scale of Smile 2.
No, nowhere near that.
But still,
this one's more on par with like a Scream movie as far as the
Probably.
amount of language they use.
I don't
in
know. I think this one has more than Scream does. Because I mean, like right
I'm
there.
talking about like the first like 2 and 3 like Scream movies.
Maybe,
because the
maybe.
newer ones they don't do it as much.
Yeah, maybe.
But like Scream 1 through 3, I would say it's more on par with that because
Yeah.
Gail Weathers, like, she's the biggest culprit in those
Well,
movies.
yeah, but of course, right there at the beginning when they're in the Black Friday thing and the crowd is like right there in the front.
Yeah.
I mean, put that. You need to just get ready to dodge because you're gonna be dodging a lot of F-bombs right there at the beginning.
And if you're a gore hound like I am, you're gonna enjoy the gore in it.
Oh, gore!
Now that, like I said,
Gore galore.
it's still tamer than what you saw in the fake trailer that they had, but it's still there. So don't be disappointed, my gore fans. You'll be satisfied by this.
And some of the ways that the killer dispenses with these people is really just, you're just like, oh,
and it really plays at like the Thanksgiving things. Like, again, very cleverly done. I honestly am not disappointed with this movie at all.
Yeah.
Would I have wanted more from the fake trailer in some regards? Absolutely. I would have loved an unrated version of this film. But, what we got was great. So if you had to ask me, was it worth the 15-year wait? Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad I got this movie.
Now, as far as like adult situations goes, there really wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there was a couple of instances maybe, but it wasn't really anything real blatant like the Friday the 13th movies.
No. They just use some of the kind of the sexual language sometimes, but not really. But nothing overtly like Friday the 13th.
Right. Now, was this movie worth your time since it's out on streaming now? Was it worth your time or was it trash? What do you think about it?
I think if you are a slasher fan, if you've always wanted a holiday slasher for Thanksgiving, if you're a gore fan, I think it's absolutely worth it. If you're not so much on gore, if you're not so much on horror, I'd say probably not worth your time as much. But if you are a horror fan, definitely, this is a definite watch. This is one that I own in my collection personally. I bought it. I pre-ordered it the minute I came out of the theater on Amazon. So, needless to say, I may be a little biased in my opinion. And plus, the theater gave me a poster for it. They actually saved one out for me because I had told them the week before that I had been waiting 15 years to see this movie, and they remembered that because that's such a long period of time to have to wait for a film,
Wow.
And so I think it's totally worth your time.
And now, how many Pepsis would you give it?
This one. Again, because it is the modern day slasher, and I'm still aboard the schlocky like 80s slashers. I wanted it more in line with that, but I still really like this movie. I'm still gonna give this one like easily a 7.5 Pepsis because again, I could have got more, but if they had maybe went more, it could have hurt the rating as far as
Right.
making it too schlocky. But I still think 7.5 is good for this one.
Um, I'm not really too much of a horror film. When I think of horror, I think of something a little more than a slasher film. Slasher films to me are in a different category. Horror film to me is something that just creeps you out, like totally just creeps me out. That's a horror movie. When I'm having to look over my shoulder and I'm walking into other rooms and turning lights on before I turn the lights off in the rooms behind me, that is a horror movie, and that's one that really gets my respect. This movie is more of a slasher film, and I can tolerate slasher films without looking over my shoulder behind me.
Yeah,
The
I'm not
thing,
worried about John Carver jumping out behind me. No.
the thing, so I'm not as generous when it comes to slasher films. This one, however, this one kinda to me had more of a Scream type feel. Now,
Yes.
Scream is one that I do respect simply for the fact that they go in the way that they do the storylines by breaking the fourth dimension barrier there, and the people realizing that they are living out a real slasher movie. This one, I liked it for the whodunit effect.
Yeah.
For the effect of the detective work that you have to do with it to figure out who the killer was. It kind of sparks your interest in that regard to me, and I really respected that part of it. But I'm not as generous with the 7.5. I would probably give this maybe about 6.5 popcorns, simply for the fact that it is a slasher, but more respectful than something from like the 80s, like the Friday the 13th. And I know those are classics, and I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for it, but they are what they were. I mean, they're slasher films, and I'm just not too big of a slasher film fan. But this one did have had that aspect to it, and I respected that for it. So, was it? Do I think it was worth your time? Yeah. Yeah, sit down and watch it. Don't watch it with the kids. Sit down and watch it. It was good. I liked it. There's going to be some cringe moments, and you're going to be like, ugh, ugh. There might be some moments where you're kind of like, oh my gosh, that was disgusting. And there are some disgusting moments in it. There really are
Oh yeah.
a couple of disgusting moments in it. So, yeah, I say sit down and watch it. I say sit down and watch it. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I'm just not too big of a slasher film fan, and so I don't give it as much
Yeah.
respect.
Me, because being a child of the 80s and growing up in the 90s, obviously Friday the 13th is huge in my life. So like,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
oh,
No,
definitely.
I really enjoyed those movies. Those were really good.
So that's the reason why I think Thanksgiving to me it just follows in that legacy of those type of movies. So
It really does.
so when it comes to slashers, I'm always going to have that little bit more of a biasy. So you're going to see that jump in the ratings for me versus
and
him.
and not
Yeah.
and not just that, but I also respect how they took a holiday that has had hardly anything. Excuse me. That's had hardly anything to do with slasher films, and they put a slasher film feel to it. So I really liked that aspect of it. I thought that was really cool. Thanksgiving. Who would have ever thought?
Yep. Come back for second helping.
All right, well that's our cue to go. So we're gonna leave you with that.
Yep,
Leave
remember
you with
to-
your Thanksgiving dinner there.
That's right. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification for your second helping. Let us know in the comments, what did you think of Thanksgiving? What would you like to see if they did a possible sequel to this? Because they definitely will leave the door open.
Yeah, they did leave the door open for a sequel, so be looking for it. Listen, I'm not too big of a slasher film fan, but yes, this movie did get some respect from me. So, hey, by all means, sit down and watch it. I mean, if nothing else, I wouldn't watch it after Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd watch it. I'd watch it like sometime before or sometime after, but not. I mean, like a couple of days. Hey, this was a pretty good film, even though it was a slasher. So sit down and enjoy your movie. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, 19 minutes.